I am Ayana and I am going to discuss what is gender. So, gender is a term that is used to describe the characteristic, whether biologically or socially influenced, that people use to define males and females. Myers and Twinge 2017. It is shaped by cultural expectation and social rules that affects people's self-concept, behavior, and aspiration. Rushes 2014. I know that we are all familiar and aware sa term nga gender, right? So, when we say gender, it refers to what means to be a male or a female in our society and culture. Ang gender is socially constructed and determines and attributes that a particular society considered appropriate for men and women. So next, let's find out the gender identity. So when we say gender identity, it is usually starts with self-categorization that influence individuals to engage in gender type behavior. Kenner 2015. In Beam's 1981, gender schema theory, our identification as man or woman affects our development because it directs what we pay attention to the process. So, when we say gender identity, it is someone's understanding their own gender that based on binary categories. So, when we say binary categories, mao ni siya katong male, masculine, and female, feminine. So, we have here 5 gender identity terminologies. First, we have the cisgender, genderqueer, intersex, transgender woman, transgender man. So, first, ito ang i-discuss ang cisgender. Cisgender is a male or female that identifies with the sex that was assigned at birth. So, ang cisgender daw is we feel like our brain and body actually aligned with our gender identity. So, for example, ako. So, my brain feels I'm female, and my gender feels like female too. So, I identified as cisgender. So, next, we have here the genderqueer. Genderqueer is used to describe a gender identity when the binary conceptualization of gender, male or female, does not accurately describe an individual's gendered outdoor or self-concept. So, genderqueer daw is people may express a combination of masculinity and femininity or neither in their gender expressions. So, mao daw ni sila ang group of people or ang mga tao na dili lang kay nagstay as feminine or masculine, but they are both naa sila sa middle. They can act as a feminine and masculine too. So next, we have the intersex. So, ang intersex, it describes a variety of medical condition wherein an individual's reproductive anatomy or innate genitals do not fit the binary definitions of male or female. So, ang gimin ani is mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga gipanganak with sex characteristic that don't fit sa ato ang binary understanding of male and female. So, note sa intersex, dili ni siya gender identity. It is a sex identity. So, last diri na ta sa transgender. Ang transgender woman o men. So, when we say transgender, kani siya, opposite ni siya sa cisgender nga ako ang gi-discussed a while ago. So, mag-focus ta sa transgender men and transgender women. So, when we say this, kuan ni sila, mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga i-change ilahang mga private organs like penis into vagina. Same thing sa transgender woman. It will be vagina into penis. So, that's are the gender identity terminologies. The cisgender, the genderqueer, intersex, the transgender men, female to men, or FTM, then transgender woman, male to female, or MTF. So lastly, we have here the gender expression. Gender expression is a manner by which people express themselves and behave may be true to their gender identity, such as when they convey their sense of femininity or masculinity outwardly. So when we say gender expression, nag-refers ni siya to the way that persons communicate their gender to the world. It includes external characteristic, behavior that associated define whether masculine or feminine. It is important to know that some general expressions may or may not allow to the traditional perception of gender identity.
Good day everyone. So today I will be going to discuss about sexual orientation, its different categories, and its possible contributing factors. So what is sexual orientation? So sexual orientation refers to an individual's physical, romantic, and emotional attraction to people of the same and or opposite gender. Example of sexual orientation includes straight or the heterosexual, lesbian, gay, and bisexual. A person's identity in relation to the genders to which they are sexually attracted. The fact of being heterosexual, homosexual, and etc. Sexual orientation is an enduring pattern of a romantic or sexual attraction or the combination of this to persons of the opposite sex or gender, the same sex or gender, or both sexes or more than one gender. So ang sexual orientation naghisgot ni siya sa individual sa physical, romantic, and emotional attraction sa usa ka tawo sa pareha o sa opposite gender niya. So example sa sexual orientation includes straight or the heterosexual. So when we say heterosexual, mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga straight or ma-attract sa opposite gender nila. So for example, ang babaye ma-attract sa lalaki o ang lalaki ma-attract sa babaye. So mao na siya ginatawag og heterosexual. So next is the lesbian, gay, and bisexual. So mao ni sila ang few examples sa sexual orientation. So next is the sexual orientation terminologies. So we have 6 sexual orientation terminologies. First is the asexual. Asexual is ang isa ka tawo nga asexual is mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga dili maka-feel og sexual attraction sa bisan kinsa. So in short, dili ni sila maibog nga mga tawo. Next is the bisexual. Is a romantic attraction, sexual attraction, or a sexual behavior ngadto sa lalaki o babaye. So ang bisexual mao ni sila mga tawo nga ma-attract or maibog sa it's either sa babaye or sa lalaki. So ma-attract sila sa both gender. Next is gay. The gay is the term that refers to homosexual person or the trait of being homosexual. So ang gay mao ni sila ang mga tawo or mga lalaki nga ma-attract sa kapwa nila lalaki. So in Bisaya mao ni sila ang ginatawag nato og bayot. Next is lesbian. Lesbian refers to a woman who has a romantic or sexual orientation towards women. So ang lesbian mao ni sila ang mga babaye nga ma-attract sa kapwa nila babaye. So same as a gay nga ang gay ma-attract sa kapwa nila lalaki, ang lesbian po mao ni sila mga babaye nga ma-attract sa kapwa nila babaye. So, mo na siya ginatawag nga tomboy in Bisaya. Next is the heterosexual. Ang heterosexual nga mga tawo, mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga ma-attract sa opposite sex nila. So, when we say opposite sex, mao ni sila akong gi-explain kanina nga ang babaye ma-attract sa lalaki o ang lalaki ma-attract sa babaye. So, mao na siya ginatawag nga heterosexual. Next is the queer. The queer is the umbrella term for people who are not heterosexual or cisgender. So meaning, mga strange ni sila mga nga pagkatawo. Mao ni sila ang mga tawo nga ma-attract sa different gender or ma-attract sila sa lahi-lahi nga gender. So talagsaon na pud kaayo na sila nga mga tawo. Next is the factors contributing to sexual orientation. Most scientists agree that sexual orientation, including homosexuality and bisexuality, is the result of combination of environmental, emotional, hormonal, and biological factors. In other words, many things contribute to a person's sexual orientation, and the factors may be different for different people. So mostly sa mga scientists, nag-agree nga ang sexual orientation, including homosexuality and bisexuality, is result siya sa combination sa environmental, emotional, hormonal, and biological factors. So in other words, daghan ang nakakontribute sa sexual orientation sa usa ka tawo. So pwede nga ang iyang sexual orientation impluwensyahan sa mga tawo nga nakapalibot sa iyaha. Next is the biological factor. Biological factors for explaining the cause of sexual orientation are favored by scientists. These factors, which may be related to development of sexual orientation, include genes, the early uterine environment such as prenatal hormones, the brain. So ang biology nag-explain siya sa mga unsay hinungdan sa imong sexual orientation. These factors, which may be related to development of a sexual orientation, include genes. So for example, sa inyong family naa kay igagaw or pagumangkon nga bayoton. And then naa sa more relatives nga bayot. So, moingon din na inyong auntie ug uncle nga ay bayot man gud to si kuan, that's why bayot sa ning bataa. So mo na ilahang gibase sa inyong genes. Next is the environment factors. This analysis suggests that overall sexual orientation in homosexual people is 32% due to genetic factor, 25% due to environment, and 43% due to specific environment. This figure represents a modest but not insignificant genetic contribution to homosexual people or mga straight nga mga tawo is 32% tungod sa genetic factors or sa inyong genes, dayon 25% tungod sa family environment or sa pamilya o sa inyong pamilya nga nakapalibot sa imuha, 43% tungod sa specific environment or sa mga tao sa inyong society nga nakapalibot sa imuha. That would be all. Thank you.
From the earlier discussion, a distinction has been made about biological sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. These variables are related with each other as they exist in one person. However, as noted earlier, they are not necessarily congruent with each other. Multidimensional view of the sexual self ay ang lahi-lahi nga paghimo tungkol sa biological sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Kani sila guys, ka-related rin sila sa usag-usa as they exist in one person. Pero dili pasabot nga nag-exist sila sa usa ka tawo. May kalabutan ni sila sa usag-usa. Naani sila differences gihapon, that's why they are not necessarily coherent with each other.